All right. So what is the result for sulfur dioxide? We know hydrogen chloride is going to travel from P to universal indicator. What is that process called by which this is traveling? Diffusion. Yes, very good. And what is the reason diffusion happens? This is usually a question where many students get stuck. What is the reason diffusion works or it happens? The reason diffusion works is because particles are in constant random motion. It's a misconception that diffusion happens because there is a difference in concentration. Difference in concentration helps drive diffusion. It gives it a general direction. But the particles are random motion all the time, which is why they're moving. Even when you don't have any difference in concentration, when there is equilibrium, particles are still moving around. Of course, they're not diffusing because there's an equilibrium, but the random motion is still there. Okay, what's the result of sulfur dioxide? It will take longer and the universal indicator will still turn red because this is also acidic, right? So this is going to take longer. So I guess D is the answer. Which piece of apparatus is used to measure 24.8? That 0.8 is a big hint of gas produced during a reaction. So because this is 0.8 and none of these options are ideal, to be honest, because beaker, conical flask, measuring cylinder, pipette, none of them are used to collect gases. They're all good for collecting liquids. But because we have to choose one of these, and there's a 0.8 thing that rules pipette out. And beaker and conical flask are terrible at measuring stuff. Beaker is primarily used to store stuff, and conical flask is primarily used to mix stuff. So measuring cylinder is the option that we'll go with. RF values are used to identify unknown substances using paper chromatography. Okay. Which statement about RF values are correct? I would like to remind you that RF value is that in a chromatogram, if this is the solvent front, and this is your baseline is where you start, then the difference from this to this compared to wherever the spot is from here, let's call this A and this B, the RF value is going to be A over B. The distance traveled by the spot compared to the total distance traveled by the solvent. Okay, which statement about RF values are correct? RF values are always less than 1. That statement, what is it telling me? It is telling me that because RF value is a ratio, if something were to travel at an RF value 1, that would mean it is already where the solvent front is. So you just need to give it more time. So it's a ratio, and the ratio is always out of 100% or out of 1. So yeah, this statement does seem right. But let's still consider the options, other options. RF value is distance traveled by solvent divided by distance traveled by, actually it's reciprocal of this. So this is wrong. The higher the RF value, the further the unknown substance travel. That is true because if RF value is 0.7, that means it has traveled 70% of the distance. So greater RF value shows that it has traveled more. RF values are not affected by the solubility. Actually, this is wrong because the whole point of something traveling is because it is being dissolved and it is moving as the solvent travels. So why else would anything move along the paper? It's only moving because there's a solvent that's dissolving it and making it go all the way. Okay, so that is why RF value is a measure of how much it's dissolved in or how much forces are between the solvent and this thing. So that's why this statement is right and this statement is right. So yeah, 1 and 3, B is the answer. The structure of an atom is shown 7 protons, 8 neutrons. Okay, so because of 7 protons, I can judge that this is nitrogen. Okay, and that's all I needed to know. Because it's a proton number that determines the element. I do not need to look at neutrons. I do not need to look at electrons. 7 protons, 7 is a proton number of nitrogen. There you go. That's my option. I don't even need to look at the options. Answers on my Which row describes the formation of single covalent bond in methane? Okay, so there's single covalent bond in methane. Methane is this thing if you need to know, although that's irrelevant to this question, but still, let's see. How does a single covalent bond work? It is a pair of electrons shared The sharing is important because covalent means sharing in the last shell. Valent from last shell and co means sharing. And do both of them get the noble gas structure? Yes. Do both of them have the same number? No. Hydrogen has 2 in total and carbon has 8 in total. The number is different, but they both have individually gained the noble gas configuration. So judging by that, my answer is going to be A. If you have any confusion, any question, feel free to ask, okay? Which statement describes the structure of an ionic compound? What's an ionic compound? It is a lattice of oppositely charged ions. That's what ionic compound is, okay? So let's see. First statement, it's a giant lattice of oppositely charged ions. That's true. That is true. Okay. Next, it is a giant lattice of positive ions and a sea of electrons. What kind of material has this structure? Do you know? Very good, Rabia. It is metals and Iman. Good, good. So yeah, this is referring to metals. It is a giant molecule of oppositely charged ions. Giant molecule of oppositely charged ions. ये क्या चीज है? It's nothing. Giant molecule of oppositely charged ions. That doesn't even make sense. It is a simple molecule of oppositely charged ions. No, because ionic compounds have oppositely charged ions. Yes, but they're in a giant lattice. So answer is going to be A. When propane burns in air, propane, so if you remember propane, prop means 3, right? In case you don't remember this, I told you the other way, an easy way of remembering this. Monkeys eat purple bananas. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4. Meth, eth, prop, but. So prop means 3. Yeah, so C3H8, because it is alkane saturated compound, that's the one. Okay, and they're all the same. And then what's happening? It is going to be burnt. Okay. You're producing carbon dioxide. Yes. You're producing water. Yes. I told you a trick to balance this equation. The number of carbon determines the number of carbon dioxide, and the number of hydrogen tells me half the water. So I have 8 hydrogens of 4 water. So 3, 4. That means it's going to be C or D.
Sir, can you repeat the trick that you just said for balancing the equation?
So in any hydrocarbon, the carbon dioxide produced is same as the number of carbons that you have. You have 3 carbons, you're going to get 3 carbon dioxide. You have 4 carbons, you're going to get 4 carbon dioxide. As long as you have hydrocarbons. And water will always be half of the hydrogen available. So I have 8 hydrogens, so I'll get 4 water. I have 10 hydrogen, I'll get 5 water. So that's a quick way of balancing this. Okay, now let's check the oxygen. So I have 6 here and 4 here, total is 10. And that means I have 5 here because that's how it becomes 10. So my answer is going to be D. Okay. Magnesium carbonate. What do we know about magnesium carbonate? Will it be colored or will it be white?
White, sir.
White. Very good, because it does not have halogen, it does not have transition metal. Okay, and it is going to be basic because metal carbonates, metal oxides, metal hydroxides are basic or amphoteric. Okay, magnesium carbonate breaks down magnesium oxide and carbon dioxide. Okay, can you think of any carbonate that does not break down when heated? Sodium and potassium. And it's no coincidence that they're at the top of the reactivity series. Because they're so reactive, once they react with carbonates, the bond is so strong that heat cannot break it. You need other methods of breaking this. So potassium and sodium are at the top. They are going to form really, really strong bonds. So you're not able to break sodium carbonate or potassium carbonate through heat. Okay, how much magnesium carbonate is needed to make 5 gram magnesium oxide? So this is pretty simple. I need to first figure out that I'm comparing this one and this one, not carbon dioxide. Okay, now here's the thing. Focus. This is a very useful trick that I'm going to tell you. Because they're asking you for 5 grams of this thing, and they're asking you how many mass of this thing is, get their MRs. Magnesium carbonate. What is the MR? Magnesium is 24, carbon is 12, and 3 oxygen. So that's going to be 48 plus 12 plus 24. So that is 84. So 84 grams of magnesium carbonate produces MR of magnesium oxide, 24 plus 16, 40. Just put their MRs, okay? 84 grams of this magnesium carbonate produces 40 grams of magnesium oxide. So 5 will produce X. Okay. And there you go. Cross multiply. And yeah, that's it. So 84 times 5 divided by 40. That's 10.5 grams. And that's my answer. Clear? Pretty straightforward. Otherwise, you will have to convert it to moles and use mole conversion, then mole convert it to mass again. 3-step process. That's not wrong, but it takes long time. 90 grams of glucose is dissolved in water. The glucose solution is fermented. Okay. After the fermentation finishes, 6.8 grams of ethanol is obtained. What is the percentage yield? Okay. Again, whenever the question on percentage yield comes in, I uploaded a video on this on Friday. Percentage yield. It's a short video. Do watch it so you understand how to solve these questions. I talk about in any percentage yield question, don't use the output until the end. So they're saying 6.8 grams of ethanol is obtained. We are not going to use it until the end. We are first going to calculate how much ethanol we'll get. We're going to ignore 6.8. हमने देखा ही नहीं. Okay, let's see over here. Again, use this trick of mass that I've told you. So glucose 180 grams, producing ethanol 46 grams. अब वो 46 नहीं है because you have 2 here. So 1 mole glucose produces 2 mole ethanol, which means 1 times 180 grams produces 2 times 46 grams. It's basic conversion. So if I have 90, it will produce X because 90 grams is dissolved. So let's check this out. So this is going to be 46 if I'm not wrong. Because 90 times 2 times 46 divided by 180. Yeah, this is 46. Yeah. Okay. So 46 grams is what it will produce. How much did it actually produce? 6.8. So 6.8 divided by 46 times 100%. And that gives me the answer. So 6.8 divided by 46. That is 14.78. So yeah, 14.8% as my yield. Now, let's suppose you do not understand this trick or you do not want to try it. No problem. First, figure out how many moles of this you have. So 90 over 180, that is the moles. That means half a mole. Now use mole ratio. 1 mole produces 2. So if 1 produces 2, half will produce 1, right? Or just cross multiplying, you'll get X equal to 1. So 1 mole ethanol is 46 grams. That's the whole definition of what MR is. MR is the relative mass of 1 mole of that thing compared with carbon 12, right? So there you go. 46 grams is what's going to be produced. 6.8 is what actually got made. So 6.8 over 46 and 100%. The diagram shows a simple cell. How do cells work? You have 2 different metals and you have an electrolyte. That's important. You have 2 different electrodes and you have an electrolyte. No resistors, or assuming there is no resistance. So one will transfer electrons to the other. The one that is more reactive will give electrons to the less reactive one. Now, this is not going to produce a chemical reaction on the other one. That one is just going to get electrons and become negative. The whole thing is going to become negative. So for example, over here, if metal P is more reactive and copper is less reactive, electrons will travel like this. And copper will become negative, negative, negative. A lot of negative electrons being dumped onto it. And metal P is oxidized because it loses electrons. Okay. Now, what does the voltage depends on? Voltage depends on the difference in reactivity. So the further things are in the reactivity series, the greater the voltage. So if this is carbon and hydrogen, if I compare them, the voltage is going to be much lower than the carbon and magnesium and copper, because voltage is going to be much greater over there. So this thing which produces the smallest voltage, the one that is closest to copper. So in the reactivity series, iron is the closest one. So that's why B is my answer. It will produce the least voltage. But all of them can produce voltage, mind you. All of them can produce voltage. The greatest voltage will come from, can you think about it? Which one will produce the greatest voltage?
Calcium.
Calcium.
Calcium. In these four options, it will be calcium, but overall, yes, Rabia, you're right, this will be potassium. Yes, correct, Iman. All right, what are the ionic half equation for the electrode reaction during electrolysis of concentrated aqueous sodium chloride? Oh, this is a tough question. But let's see what's happening. First of all, this is concentrated aqueous sodium chloride. What are the rules of electrolysis? First rule of electrolysis: reactive anode dissolves. So obviously when it dissolves, it forms ions. Number two, do you have reactive anode? No. Or you might, I'm not sure. Let's see. It doesn't say. Doesn't say. Okay. Second, less reactive ion discharges except concentrated halogen. Do you have concentrated halogen? Yeah. Sodium chloride concentrated. So yes, we do. So that means first rule is not applied, but the second rule is going to be applied. So let me write the ions first. I have sodium ions, I have chloride ions, I have hydrogen ion, and I have OH ions. Where am I getting them from? Aqueous solution means H and OH, and sodium chloride means sodium and chloride. Now I need to see which will ionize or which will discharge. Now the least reactive one is going to be discharged. So in positive ions, that's hydrogen. In negative ions, that's chloride. So that tells me this is going to be hydrogen on one side and chloride on the other side. Now the question is, where does hydrogen go? Cathode or anode? Remember, H positive is a cation, so it must go to the cathode. So look for the equation with H positive in there. That is this one. Don't fall for the first one because that is saying hydrogen is ionizing. Your anode will dissolve and form ions. This is not anode. This is the ion that's already there. So this is why the only possible option is B. There's no other decent option. And yeah, it is confirming that I'll get chloride, which will discharge. By the way, in 2018, I think there was a question in which they gave us dilute sodium chloride, and on the anode, it was still chlorine being produced. So for O-levels people especially, remember that examiner has done that. And what examiner is now accepting is that if you have halogen, whether it is concentrated or whether it is dilute, you will get halogen. IGCSE people have been following it for a while, but O-levels people keep on confusing. So remember this: if you have halogen, now the examiner accepts halogen being produced, whether it's dilute or concentrated, doesn't matter. And if you have OH, then oxygen is produced. So ये तो काम और आसान हो गया. Now we don't need to worry about concentrated or other. We just see whether it is halogen, then it will produce halogen. If it is not halogen, it will produce oxygen. Those are the only two options in our syllabus now. Okay, an energy level diagram for a reaction is shown. Which statement explains the reaction are correct? Okay, hold on. Let me say this is A, this is B, this is C. Which energy will be the activation energy?
B, sir.
A to B, yes. A to B. It's important to mention where it starts and where it ends. Okay, which is the enthalpy change?
A to C.
A to C.
A to C, yes. So yes, that's right. Okay, now let's look at the question. Which statement explanation about this reaction are correct? Okay, statement. Is this endothermic or exothermic? You can clearly see the delta H is going down. That shows this is exothermic. An explanation. Why is this exothermic? Because products are at a lower energy level than the reactants. It has lost more energy. Okay, so that is why the answer is going to be D. Which gases are used to generate electricity in a fuel cell? This fuel cell basically takes hydrogen on one side, oxygen on the other side, makes water from them by ionizing them, and that is what it does. That is what fuel cell is. The internal working of fuel cell, we don't need to get into that. Just know hydrogen, oxygen come in, form ions, and these ions produce water. So this is hydrogen, oxygen gases. Okay, does anybody know the source of hydrogen? Where do we get that hydrogen from? Cracking of hydrocarbons. Cracking hydrocarbons. Very good, Iman. Okay, next question. What is the catalyst for cracking hydrocarbons? O-level people don't need to know that. For IGCSE, you need to know this is aluminum oxide. Okay? Al2O3. O-level people don't need to worry about it. It's not asked. A sequence of changes involving sulfur is shown. Okay. So first of all, sulfur is going from solid to liquid. Pretty easy. What process is this? What do we call this? Change one. Solid to liquid. Melting. Very good, Rabia.
Melting.
Is this physical or chemical? It's physical process because sulfur itself is not changing. It is still the same compound, just state is different, phase is different. And from liquid to sulfur dioxide gas, it has changed chemically. That shows this is a chemical change. And what is the name of this change? Sulfur changing to sulfur dioxide. Yes, very good, Umar. It is oxidation. Can I call it combustion? Only if a flame is involved. Okay, without flame, this is oxidation. With flame, it is both oxidation and combustion. And yeah, the first one is physical, the second is chemical. Magnesium reacts with dilute hydrochloric acid. Which statement about the particles in this reaction is correct? Okay, so magnesium is reacting, it's a solid reacting with an aqueous solution. We want to change the rate. So, okay. Increasing the concentration of dilute HCl increases the collision rate. That is true. That is how you increase the rate of collision per unit time, which means reaction is faster, but has no effect on activation energy. That is correct. Activation energy is only affected by catalyst. There's no other factor to affect activation energy. So this first statement is correct. But let's still evaluate the others. Increasing the concentration of HCl increases the collision rate. That's true. And the activation energy, no. Increasing the temperature, increase the activation energy. No, increasing the temperature just makes them move more faster, glide faster and all that, but that's about it. Increasing the temperature causes all collision lead to a reaction. No matter how high the temperature is, there is a probability that some collision will not be successful. Because a collision can only be successful if the energy involved is higher than activation energy. What if even at high temperature there is some collision that is not because of activation energy, or maybe there is a very high activation energy of that reaction? So this does not guarantee anything. Two molecules of nitrogen dioxide combine in a reversible reaction from dinitrogen tetroxide. Okay. The forward reaction is exothermic. So I've told you whenever you read that, write minus plus or plus minus. This is a plus minus equation. Which change in reaction condition would both increase the amount. So that means I want to drive it forward. Okay. So we are looking for two changes that will drive the equilibrium forward. Okay. Decreasing the temperature. If I decrease the temperature, it's a plus minus equation. If I decrease it, it goes to the negative side. If I increase it, it goes to the positive side. It is in the term. Decrease is negative. So decrease causes it to go to the negative side because that's exothermic. Increase is positive. It is going up. So if you increase the temperature, it goes to the positive side. No matter what the reaction reversible. It's a very easy way of getting the answer right. यहाँ पे आप पूछ सकते हो कि सर क्लास में तो आप कहते हैं कॉन्सेप्ट पे जाओ, यहाँ पे आप कह रहे हैं बस आंसर ठीक करो. This is the past paper session. We need to save time. We need to understand these past paper attempting techniques. So the concept is there that if they ask you for explanation that why does this happen, we can talk about Le Chatelier's principle and say that it goes forward because that's exothermic. But over here, we have to save time. Decreasing the pressure makes it go towards the greater moles. It's the opposite. So if I look at this equation, it is a 2-1 equation because I have 2 on the left side and 1 on the right side. Gaseous moles ki baat ho rahi hai. So if I decrease the pressure, it goes to the left side. So this is not answer. Decreasing the temperature is already pushing it forward, and increasing the pressure will make it go towards the lesser side. So yeah, this is my answer. Very good, Rabia. Yeah, we don't need to check the other ones. We already answered them. When concentrated aqueous sodium chloride is electrolyzed, okay, so it's similar to that one. Which product is formed at cathode and which product is formed at anode? So using the new information that I've given you, if there is a halogen, you will get the halogen. If there is dilute or any other solution, you don't have halogen, you'll get oxygen. So anode is going to be halogen anyway. And on the positive side, I have sodium ions and H ions. So obviously the less reactive one discharges, so I'm going to go with A. Which negative ions are present in aqueous copper 2 sulfate? Okay, negative ions present in aqueous copper 2 sulfate. Really, really easy question. I have sulfate ions and aqueous, so I have hydroxide ions. That's my only options because I'm only talking about negative ions. So yes, you're right. It is C. The diagram shows the energy profile. Is this endothermic or exothermic? Tell me.
Endothermic.
Very good. It is endothermic. So can we call it a plus minus reaction or a minus plus reaction? Tell me. I'm sorry, Adam, your voice is cutting out. So can you type? Yeah, you're right. Umar is absolutely right. It is a minus plus because it is endothermic. Okay, now they're saying the reaction that is endothermic, of course, the forward reaction is endothermic and the backward reaction is exothermic. Second, the reaction with greater activation energy. Let's label the activation energies. From over here to here, that is the activation energy of the forward reaction. And from here to here, that's the activation energy of the backward reaction. Okay? So based on this, we can easily see that forward reaction has higher activation energy. So yeah, it is both forward. The table shows the energy released by complete combustion. Okay, which compound releases the least energy when 1 gram is burnt? Now, here's the thing. How do you solve these? There are multiple ways of doing this, but let's try to understand what they're asking. They're saying you have 1 mole of this compound. When it burns, it releases this much energy. Now, 1 mole of this compound, what is its mass? The mass of 1 mole of any compound is its MR. So basically, this reaction is telling me that 78 grams of benzene gives this much energy. 100 grams of heptane gives this much energy. Okay. So what is the energy per gram? Don't think of it as energy for 1 gram. Think of it energy per gram. Energy per 1 gram. Isn't that energy per gram? That means all I need to do, this is the energy of 1 mole, this is the gram of 1 mole. So all I need to do is divide 3270 by 78. That's it. Divide the two numbers and you will get an answer. Okay. So that's all they're looking for. So no detailed calculation required. Just divide them. So the first one is 41.9. They're all negative. Second one is 48. Third one is 48.3. Fourth one is 50. Okay, which one gives the least energy? Now, this is not maths where negative number or positive number or a negative 50 is smaller than negative 40. That's not the case here. Negative is just telling me energy is given out. Positive is telling me energy is given in. This has nothing to do with the value. The value is 50. Negative simply tells me it's given or lost. So don't think of it as negative 50 and say, oh, negative 50 is smaller than negative 48. No, it is 50, that's the value. Negative just tells me it's coming out. Okay, so judging by this, the highest value is given by propane and the smallest value is given by benzene. So that's why my answer is going to be benzene. Negative is there just to show that it is release of energy. An experiment is carried out to measure the rate, okay, magnesium and hydrochloric acid under two different conditions. So one is faster, two is slower. I can see that. Mass of magnesium and number of moles are the same. Okay. Which statement could explain the difference in graph 1 and 2? So because the mass is the same, moles is the same, they're producing the same volume. But one is still faster than the other. So how many factors do we have? We have a factor of concentration. But if you change concentration, you change the Y value. That's not happening here. Second is, because this is solid, it could be surface area. So maybe one has a greater surface area and two has a lower surface area. So less particles are exposed and less collisions per unit time. So that's why two is slower. Okay. Three is that you have higher temperature. One is faster, so temperature is higher, more kinetic energy, particles colliding more per unit time. So that means gas wouldn't, because there's no gas in the reactants, increasing or decreasing pressure would not affect it. All right. So based on this, I can clearly see that this might be right and this might be right. 1 and 3 only. So my answer is C. 2 is not the answer because 2 would change the volume that's produced. Okay. Hydrogen peroxide decomposes slowly at room temperature. The reaction can be catalyzed by adding manganese for oxide. Okay, it's a black solid. I usually do it in the class when in grade 9 when we study gas tests and all that. The diagram shows the apparatus that can be used to monitor the rate of this reaction. Okay, so what are they doing? They are going to produce oxygen. They're going to collect it. Obviously, they're going to measure the volume collected per unit time or the change in mass per unit time. Which statement is correct when catalyst is added? Okay, so catalyst increases the activation energy. No, catalyst decreases the activation energy. Catalyst is used up. No, that's the whole point of a catalyst. It is regenerated and can be used multiple times. Gas cylinders fills up more quickly when the catalyst is added. What does that mean? It means the reaction is faster. So that's the whole point of using a catalyst, right? So yeah, this is my answer. The total amount of oxygen produced increases when the catalyst. No, catalyst does not change the yield. Remember this. Catalyst just speeds up the reaction, does not change the yield. Reduction can be defined in terms of gain or loss of oxygen or of hydrogen or of electrons. Okay, that's the reduction. Which row correctly describes all three definitions? So oxygen loss. Okay, so For electrons, we know oil rig. Oxidation is loss, reduction is gain. So gain of electrons, gain of hydrogen. And there's only one option with that. So there is D. Why is ethanoic acid described as a weak acid? Why is anything a weak acid? It is weak because it does not ionize fully, or it ionizes partially, produces less ions per unit mole, and acid because it gives protons. So which one should be the answer? Go on, tell me. Okay, tell me, why is A wrong? Aren't all organic acids weak? So A should be right. Why is it wrong? It is wrong because it is not giving me the fundamental reasoning. Yes, Rabia, it does not explain why. You're right. So B is true. It is a poor conductor. Yes, it is a poor conductor because it doesn't provide enough ions. Still, B is true, but not the answer, the reason. It is only slightly dissociated. That is the ultimate reason. It reacts with very reactive metals. That's also correct. The statements are all correct on their own, but only C explains the reason. Which reaction is an addition reaction? Addition reaction happens when you have double bonds, right? So let's see, making ethane and ethene from butane. Name this reaction, go on. This is not addition, but what reaction is this? Tell me.
Substitution.
No. Substitution would be if you had two reactants producing two products, just interchanging the atoms. This is cracking. You're starting with a bigger molecule, butane, and you're ending with smaller molecules, ethane and ethene. That is cracking. Okay? We need high temperature. We need anaerobic conditions, which means there can't be oxygen. What is the problem having oxygen would cause? In presence of oxygen, these things will burn. Does everybody understand? Okay, B, making ethene and hydrogen from butane. Again, same thing. You're just breaking it down into multiple products. Again, cracking. Manufacture of margarine from vegetable oil. Yes, that's addition. What are the reactants in here? Does anybody know? The reactants are hydrogen gas, nickel catalyst, high temperature. So this is my answer. This is addition. D is the reaction between ethene and oxygen giving carbon dioxide and water. That's oxidation or combustion. That's not addition. Organic weak hai. Two equations involving ethanol are shown. Okay. Which row is correct? All right. Two equations involving ethanol are shown. First one is oxidation. Ethanol plus oxygen makes carboxylic acid. That's true. Ethanoic acid is made in presence of an oxidizing agent. Okay. Glucose is broken down anaerobically using yeast. So you need yeast. You need an anaerobic condition. You need 20 to 40 degrees Celsius temperature. These things, you should know them. This is oxidation using KMNO4, goes purple to colorless. Sorry. Remember these things. Molecular formula of carboxylic acid. You're taking ethanol and you're producing ethanoic acid, so C2H5OH. Oh, sorry, that is ethanol. And you're producing CH3COOH. So that is these two. Overall, 2 carbons only. A catalyst is needed in the second one. You don't need a catalyst in the first one. Sure, a catalyst will speed it up, but it even happens without a catalyst. Glucose will not change to ethanol without a catalyst. It will just rot or something. So catalyst is needed in 2 only. So yeah, this is C. Very good, Rafa. What is the empirical formula of ethanoic acid? So let's just write the molecular formula. CH3COOH, that is C2H4O2. So CH2O, which is A. Yes, that's right. Which structure represents propyl methanoate? I've told you multiple times this comes from alcohol as a branch with oxygen. So propyl, the 3-carbon thing, is attached to oxygen. Look for an option that has 3 carbons attached to oxygen. B. Yes, very good. This one. So this comes from the alcohol. Okay, on your notebooks, if B is the answer, can you draw the acid and the alcohol that produces B? Go on, make those diagrams, send them in the group so I can see. Take the picture and send them.
So can you repeat what we have to do?
I'm saying take B and tell me which acid and which alcohol it is made from. Okay, I don't know. I haven't received any. So basically, you have to remember that this is where the bond breaks with oxygen. Okay, over here. So that means I will get 3 carbons with OH when I reverse this. And this one is going to be joined with another H. So I'm going to get methanoic acid and propanol. Okay, that's where we get this from. All right, moving on. Iron is extracted from its ore in blast furnace. Coke and limestone are added. Okay. What is the purpose of limestone? Limestone, remember, is CaCO3. And at high temperature, it breaks down just like other carbonates, producing calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide changes to carbon monoxide, which obviously gets iron oxide reduced. And this one reacts with silicon dioxide to produce slag, which is the impurity. So these two things are very useful. So the point of using calcium carbonate is to use release oxygen. No, it doesn't release oxygen. To react with coke, no, it doesn't react with coke. But C is right because silicon dioxide is acidic. So this was an interesting question because it doesn't answer the question directly. there is a tangent from where it's coming from. Aluminum is extracted from aluminum oxide by electrolysis. Which statement about this electrolysis is correct? Okay, aluminum ions gain electron from aluminum. Yes, that is right. Aluminum is +3 ion. It gains 3 electrons to form aluminum. Yes, that is correct. Cryolite increases the melting point? No, it decreases. Cryolite has two main reasons. Number one, it is used as a solvent. It is where the things are dissolved. And secondly, it decreases the melting point. Okay. C is wrong. Carbon cathode has to be replaced regularly as it reacts with oxygen. Carbon anode has to be replaced regularly. Okay. Read this. Carbon anodes. Steel is produced by blowing oxygen into impure molten iron. Yes, that's right. This is called oxygen furnace. You have impure iron in there, iron with carbon, and then when you blow oxygen into it, carbon forms carbon dioxide, and you get lesser and lesser carbon present. So it's just two reasons why this process is carried out. The oxygen removes some of the carbon from the impure iron. That's right. Oxygen oxidizes iron 2 ions to iron 3. No, that's wrong. Because iron 2 ions are not present. It is a mixture of iron and carbon. So there's no ions present. So that's why the answer is only going to be A. One only, so that's B. Z is a pollutant gas that is formed in internal combustion engine. Okay. An aqueous solution of Z is acidic. So you have an internal combustion engine gas that is acidic. Z is removed from exhaust by catalytic converter by reduction. Okay, what gases do we have? We have carbon monoxide, nitrogen monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, carbon dioxide. These are the gases that are, and of course, hydrocarbons. Now, this is neutral. This is also neutral. These are acidic. Okay. Now, carbon dioxide is not stopped by catalytic converter. In fact, carbon monoxide is converted to carbon dioxide, and both nitrogen monoxide and nitrogen dioxide is converted to nitrogen. And that is a reduction. Carbon monoxide is being oxidized and nitrogen dioxide is being reduced. So NO2 is the answer. And this is the last question for today. A student investigates the properties of colorless organic liquid. Which observation shows that the liquid is unsaturated? Unsaturated means it has double bond, which means it undergoes addition reaction. And the test for that, if you remember, is passing it through aqueous bromine, which decolorizes. So based on this is my answer. Sweet smell tells me it's an ester. That's not telling me it's unsaturated. Good solvent, again, it could be an alcohol, it could be ester. Produces carbon dioxide when burned. Almost all organic compounds do that. So because of this, my answer is A. And yeah, that's it for today. So we are done with the MCQ questions for 2019. Again, today, go home, solve the paper, and do at least one paper. Okay? All right. See you tomorrow. Any questions? I'm here.